How did Ionah from the Bible manage to spend 3 days in the whale's stomach, and is it even possible? Today we will try to answer this question and tell you about several amazing cases that happened in our time. But first, it is worth remembering why the prophet was punished in the first place. In the biblical text we read, "Then the word of the Lord came to Ionah son of Amittai, Arise, go to Nineveh, that great city, and preach against it, for their wickedness has come up before me." But the prophet Ionah did not want to fulfill God's command, because he was sure that the Lord, despite the rebukes, would still forgive the apostate pagans and have mercy on them. And in the end, that's what happened. And so Ionah decides to flee. Instead of Nineveh, he sets off on a ship in the opposite direction, to Tarshish. The ship gets caught in a storm and the ship's crew decides to cast lots to see which of those present the gods are so angry with. After the lot points to Jonah, the prophet himself asks to be thrown overboard. Despite all the efforts of the crew, they cannot row. A difficult decision is made and Ionah ends up at sea. The storm abates, but the prophet is waiting punishment. The whale swallows him. Having repented, Ionah prayed from the belly of the whale and it vomited him onto the shore. The text of the Bible indicates that the prophet spent 3 days and 3 nights inside the fish, but this period should not be taken literally. In Scripture, numbers often have a sacred allegorical character. Well, what does modern science tell us about this? Of course, many people hold a skeptical point of view on this matter. But, perhaps, it is still worth sorting this out. So, first, let's define the terms. In Greek, whale is translated as sea monster. That is, the sea creature that swallowed Ionah should not have been a whale at all, the image of which is drawn by the imagination of a modern person. Secondly, there are already at least a few more documented cases confirming that a person can survive being swallowed by a sperm whale. The first known case occurred in 1891 near the Falkland Islands. A British whaling schooner was wrecked by a huge sperm whale. It also swallowed a harpooner named James Bartley. When the whalers killed the sperm whale a few hours later, they managed to rescue James. He was alive, although unconscious. Unfortunately, what happened affected the harpooner's health. The animal's gastric juice affected the human body so much that his skin, having lost pigmentation, became completely white. In addition, James lost his hair. And yet, he survived. And in our time, or rather, in 2019, a similar story happened to Rainer Schimpf. The man was diving off the coast of South Africa with glasses and a snorkel. The swim was initially tense, with many sharks around. As Rainer later stated, this is why he did not notice that he was in the path of a 25-ton striped whale. The mammal swallowed the diver, chewed him a little, and then vomited the man out. And 2 years later, in June 2021, early on a Friday morning, professional fisherman Michael Packard went to the American beach of Herring Cove to catch lobsters. Michael remembered this day for the rest of his life. He not only gained worldwide fame, but also became the third person in history to survive a whale attack. As the man later recalled, the attack happened completely unexpectedly, from behind. At some point, he felt a strong push and suddenly it became dark. The fisherman's legs were trapped inside the mouth, but he could freely move his arms. Michael felt for the oxygen tank, adjusted the mask, and then the whale simply spat the unlucky diver back out. The whole adventure took 30 to 40 seconds. The Canadian got off with a fright, bruises on his legs and a small fracture. Later, lying in a hospital bed, the man told reporters that he would return to fishing after being discharged. Both swimmers were very lucky. They met baleen whales, whose diet consists exclusively of small fish. The esophagus of such animals is not designed to swallow large prey. Despite its enormous size, this whale's throat does not exceed the diameter of a basketball. The worst thing that could have happened to Rainer was death from suffocation if the whale had spat him out a little later. However, the situation changes when we start talking about toothed whales, killer whales and sperm whales. These are carnivorous predators whose menu includes penguins and seals. According to researchers, in the event of an attack by a toothed whale, a person has no chance of survival. The whale will cripple the diver and then swallow him piece by piece. If for some reason the unfortunate one remains alive, it will still die before it gets into the first stomach, suffocating in it. Unlike baleen whales, toothed whales periodically attack people. This happens either by mistake, when the mammal confuses a person with a seal, or in the process of self-defense. And there are also cases when the predator wants to play with a person and maims him during the game. Thus, even the most desperate skeptics can no longer claim that the biblical story of Ionah is 100% fiction. Well, and for believing Christians this question has never been relevant at all. If the Bible wrote that it was not a whale that swallowed Ionah, but Ionah swallowed a whale, many would probably believe it.